Day one of free agency for the NFL started today, and it was an emotional day for a lot of Giants fans. And we want to talk about all the moves that happened today with Paul Schwartz of the New York Post, our Giants beat writer. Paul, how can you summarize today and what the Giants did?
I'm not going to summarize it. Doesn't free agency start Wednesday, right?
It
It
does.
it starts when nobody can sign till Wednesday. That's what I have on my little calendar here. Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? This is at the Monday at noon it starts, and Monday at 12:01 deals are made. So yeah, I mean it was a really whirlwind day for the Giants and their fans. A lot of emotions up and down. Obviously, Saquon Barkley goes to the Eagles. That is a slap across the face to anyone who ever rooted for the Giants. Xavier McKinney to the Packers, less shocking, but certainly, something that hits home with Giants fans. The guy played every down last year on defense for the Giants at safety, and then, a couple of, offensive line things. They sign or they agree to terms with John Runyon from the Packers. Later in the day, they get Jermaine um, Ellen Muir, Ilyu Muir. I'm not sure how you say his name.
Elamanor?
Um, Elmanor from the Raiders, but after Saquon goes very quickly, they sign Devin Singletary as a running back. And then obviously the big news, save the best for last, is they make a mega trade with the Panthers for Brian Burns, a really young ascending defensive end edge rusher. And that was just and then they have to not only sign and trade for him, they have to give him big money after that, or else it doesn't work, because he was a franchise tagged player from the Panthers. So that kind of, I think, brought a lot of Giant fans back to earth, saying, oh, okay, I kind of see what we're doing here. We're not just losing our key players, we're gaining players at different positions. So we'll break these down one-on-one, but it was a incredibly busy first day for the Giants.
Paul, that's a great way to summarize it. I mean, I know for you watching this team and for me, as I've watched the Giants a bunch in the offseason, I felt like it was a massive day for the Giants. I mean, I know you really don't want to be winners on day one of free agency, but it felt like a big day for the Giants and how Joe Schoen wants to get his real imprint on this team. So let's start with the Saquon Barkley thing. We've talked a bunch, and I know you've talked a whole bunch about Saquon Barkley, what that situation was going to play out with the Giants. They didn't franchise tag him again this offseason. They said, let him test the free agent market. So when you saw he went to the Eagles for the contract that he got, how did you feel about that news coming down that Saquon was going to go to the Giants' rival?
Well, look, I mean, once a guy comes a free agent, there are 31 teams out there, and there's no stipulations. You can go, but don't sign with this team. Don't sign with our rival. Don't sign with the Jets across the way. Once you're free, right? He was literally free as a bird, right? Free and became a bird. So look, and the Giants know that. They tried for a year and a half to get a deal done with Saquon, right? And it just did not work out. The first year of the Joe Schoen regime, they tried to get something done at the bye week. They tried to get something done after that season. The best they were going to offer him is a 2-year deal with $23 million in guaranteed money. And this year they really didn't make him an offer after the season. They talked. It was amicable, but it was basically, look, go see what you can get. You're going to become a free agent. If nothing works out for you, we'll certainly talk to you. I think the Giants were thinking more like 8-9 million a year for a running back, maybe less, but maybe a little more for Saquon. Last year it was almost 12 million a year. They didn't feel he helped himself in 2023. He didn't get 1,000 yards. He missed 3 games with a high ankle sprain. So look, he got good money from the Eagles, really good money. 3 years, 37.75, almost 38 million, 26 million guaranteed. So financially, Saquon did the right thing. He left. Look, he's from Pennsylvania.
Yep.
He was born in the Bronx, grew up in Pennsylvania, went to Penn State. This is unquestionably a homecoming for him, a team that he's very familiar with, a team that went 10-3 against the Giants in Saquon's time with the Giants. So he's going to a better team in a place that he's familiar with, and he can stick it to the Giants twice a year. I don't think Giants fans are all bent out of shape about Saquon leaving for the Eagles. They may be upset that he's leaving, but you go where the money is, and that's where the money was.
Absolutely. And I think for Saquon, he's also looking at it as you're going to one of the best offensive lines in football. Even with Jason Kelsey retiring, you still have a very good offensive line that's going to run the ball and a scheme that works for him. And like you said, the money is what stood out there for him to make that decision. Now, for the Giants, they bring in Devin Singletary now as I wouldn't call him a replacement to Saquon, but they do bring him in on a free agent deal. So what did you make of Joe Schoen taking a guy that, he had familiarity with in the Buffalo Bills organization?
Look, this guy played 4 years for Brian Daboll in Buffalo. So these guys will sign off on a guy. They know him, right? He played last year for the Texans and gained almost 900 yards. He's not Saquon Barkley. You know what? He got a 3-year deal for $16.5 million. He got less than $6 million guaranteed. Okay. Saquon got $26 million guaranteed. So nobody is saying, the Giants aren't saying we signed a player comparable to Saquon Barkley. What they are saying is we think the running back position we can do with a $6 million player, maybe draft somebody, maybe Eric Gray, the rookie from last year who was not impressive, steps up and plays better. That it's position value. They do not value position of running back as someone they want to pay big money to. They were trying to, Joe Schoen said after the season, we tried to stretch and stretch and stretch to make it work with Saquon, and it didn't. And I don't think they have bad feelings to him. Devin Singletary is a smaller. He's a quick guy. He's an okay pass catcher out of the backfield. He will be part of a tandem at running back with who yet to be determined. No one's saying he's Saquon Barkley, but the Giants think on offense they can make it work with this cheaper running back situation.
I think cheaper is the key word there you mentioned, Paul, because the Giants, not only did they let Saquon walk, they let Xavier McKinney walk as well. And using that money that's freed up by not tying into those two players, they were also able to address offensive line today. So they signed John Runyon for the Packers and Jermaine Illuminor that we talked about from the Raiders. So what do you make of those two signings on the offensive line? We knew the Giants were going to try and reinforce this offensive line. Do you think they got some of that done today?
Well, they did. Now they had to sign a starting guard. Now, guys like Robert Hunt and Jackson from the Lions, they were going for big money, and the Giants were not, shopping in that shopping mall. They just weren't. So, John Runyon for $10 million a year, 3 years, $30 million. He is an incredibly durable player in his 4 years with the Packers. He started at right guard last year, played every game, allowed 2 sacks. He's a good pass protector. And, Lord knows the Giants gave up 85 sacks last year, so they need a guy to be a pass protector. Is he a great player? No. I remember, I don't know if you do, John Runyon Sr., the father, was a pretty good tackle for the Eagles and went up against Michael Strahan in his heyday, and Michael Strahan used to abuse him almost every game. They ended up having a good relationship, but they were battles, mostly won by Strahan. Now his son comes to play for the Giants. But look, they liked McKinney. They liked Xavier McKinney. They wanted to re-sign him, but I think they were like in the 12, 13 million a year range. He gets 17 million a year for the Packers. And the Giants just looked at that and said, he had 3 interceptions last year. He's a really good player. We don't think he's a difference maker on defense. And we would only pay that kind of money to a safety if he is a special, if he takes safety and redefines it into a difference-making defender. And they don't see that from McKinney. Look, McKinney's 24 and he's a good player, and he'll probably do really good things in Green Bay, but that's what I'm saying. The offensive line was a position that they needed, and we'll talk about Brian Burns. No one argues about paying for edge rushers. And you know what? In the draft, they're crapshoots. They really are. When you can get a young guy who is proven like Burns is, it's a better way to go, especially because he's young. He's on the way up. He turns 26 next month.
And 12.5 sacks for Burns last year with the Panthers, a guy who's just in his prime right now. To get him, I think what you alluded to with McKinney as well is that he's not the only one on the safety. I mean, there's a lot of safeties out in the market. The NFL as a whole seems like they were trying to reset the safety market a little bit and say, this isn't a position that we're going to pay, out the nose to a premium position. It's not one of those. It's something that they kind of devalued. Same thing with the running back position, but Jermaine Illuminor and Brian Burns, you alluded to both of those moves, obviously. How do you assess one, the trade that happened with Burns, and two, I guess the follow up to Illuminor. Do you see him being the Giants' starting right tackle this season and bumping Evan Neal inside to guard? How do you see that position playing out too?
I'll answer the second one first. No, but he is competition for Evan Neal, and that's one thing they were adamant to get. Not Evan Neal, you're the starting right tackle, and we'll just have backups. This is a guy who started for the Raiders the last 2 years. He can play guard. He has played right tackle, certainly. So he comes in, and I think he will battle for a position. And the Giants right now do not want to say, we need a new right tackle. We're going to move Evan Neal inside the guard. That is not the play right now.
Okay.
It is Evan Neal. He's coming off ankle surgery. It is win the job. You may get first crack at it. Win the job. You were the seventh pick in the draft 2 years ago. We loved you then. We don't know why. The Giants are really confused why he has not become a good player. It's not because he's a bad guy or hasn't worked hard. They just are really confused. They went back and looked at all his tape in Alabama and still can't really figure it out. They have a new offensive line coach. Maybe that helped. So this is a guy they bring in from the Raiders who will push Evan Neal. If he beats him out, he beats him out. If not, he's great depth in case of injury or Evan Neal falters. As far as Brian Burns, look, they gave up a second-round pick, which is, I think it was 39th overall. They
Correct.
still have a second-round pick from the Leonard Williams trade with Seattle. So they still have a second-round pick, their own second-round pick. So that's good. And a fifth-round pick they gave up. And they swapped fifth-round picks this year. The fifth-round pick that they gave up is for 2025. The ones they swapped this year, there's about a 20 position difference. So the Giants get the worst of the pick. That was part of the concession. But this is I think you mentioned 12. I think Burns had 8 sacks last year.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 12 and a half. Okay.
Yeah, I think he had 8 sacks last year. But look, he got double teamed a lot from the with the Panthers. He's another guy, very durable, does not miss games. And I think the guy who will give him the biggest hug in the locker room when he shows up is Kayvon Thibodeau, because now Kayvon Thibodeau has a legitimate guy on the other end, which he has not had for the last 2 years. Let's face it, Azeez Ojulari can get to the passer, but he can't get to the field. He's hurt all the time. So this is another guy. And like I said, once they make the deal, okay, now we have to sign him. And he got 5 years, $150 million. He got a ton of money. It'll be interesting to see how that gets structured. But
87 guaranteed, 87 and a half. I saw guaranteed.
I mean, it's huge money, but he's a durable player at a position of value who is young. Like I said,
yeah,
his first snap for the Giants will be when he's 26 years old. So that is not inappropriate money to give to a guy. The Giants took advantage of the Panthers putting the franchise tag on him and knowing that they did not want to keep him because they need picks and they need, it just wasn't going to work out there with Burns anymore. So, it's a good move. And I think it helped Giants fans say, okay, now I understand what's going on here a little bit. Are they better running back with Singletary over Barkley? No. We don't know who the safety will be. So that we have to see, but their offensive line got better. Their defensive line got a lot better. And, it's only one day, it's only one day. But that is a big ticket item, signing Burns to that money. That is a major big ticket item. But I think it's appropriate considering the age and the production of the player.
Absolutely. So I was actually incorrect. 12 and a half was back in 2022, 8 sacks, like you said, last year. But like you said, though, for this defensive line now to have Dexter Lawrence in the middle with Burns and Thibodeau on both sides, that's going to be a scary, scary defense, especially for Shane Bowen, new defensive coordinator, to come in and work with these players. How do you see that really playing out there for that D-line?
Well, here's the thing. Shane Bowen wants upfield pass rush from his front four. Now you say everyone wants that, but no, Wink Martindale blitzed the last 2 years as defensive coordinator. It was not that front group, upfield pass rush was not as imperative on first and second down. It was Wink Martindale was stop the run, and then we'll get after you with the blitz. You know what I mean? And Shane Bowen has different philosophy. He's going to play less man. He's going to play more zone, and he's going to need that front group to dominate up front. A little more like Steve Spagnuolo used to do, although Spagnuolo certainly, is not afraid to blitz. And Shane Bowen isn't afraid to blitz either, but it's going to be much less blitz intense, this time around with the Giants with this new defensive coordinator. So it was important to have guys who can win on first down, on second down, rushing the passer. They think Thibodeau can. They know Dexter Lawrence can. And now, they really know that Brian Burns can. And their defense got a lot better.
And finally, Paul, obviously the Giants are not done. This is only day one. But for you looking forward and looking ahead here in the coming days and weeks as the Giants continue to put this team together, are there any other names or players or positions that really Giants fans should be paying attention to as Joe Schoen attacks the rest of this offseason?
So how about the most important position on the field, right? They're going to sign a backup quarterback. They're going to sign one, regardless of what their plans off of the draft. Right now, they have Daniel Jones coming off an ACL and Tommy DeVito. They are going to sign a backup quarterback. Now, is it going to be Ryan Tannehill? I don't think so. Could it be Sam Darnold? Maybe. I see Jacoby Brissett just went to the Patriots, I believe, right?
Yep.
So these guys are coming off the board. Joe Schoen did not rule out bringing back Tyrod Taylor. I'd be not shocked if that happens, but I would be surprised. I don't think Taylor was really, into how it ended with him. And, he was kind of, yanked around here and there, and played and then got benched. But Tyrod Taylor gets hurt a lot also. So there's that. So who they sign at backup quarterback will give us a little bit of an indication of what they're thinking in the draft at that position, but not 100%. I don't think there's anybody if they brought in Russell Wilson, who they did talk to. I think more of Wilson's camp wanted to talk to them. If they brought in Russell Wilson, now it's like, okay, now it might not make sense to draft a quarterback in the first round. You know what I mean? But if they bring in they're going to bring in somebody, and who that is it a guy who is like a real legitimate backup, and a guy who can maybe threaten Daniel Jones, or a guy will only play if Daniel Jones gets hurt or is not ready to start the season. So that's one. They will probably address safety. I don't think they're done on the offensive line. They're still, and you know what? There's that fallback position at tight end because Darren Waller is thinking about retiring. And, right now they have Daniel Bellinger there. And if Waller retires, it would be nice to know that soon if you're the Giants, because I don't think they're going to go sign, the top tight end on the market, but they will need to sign another tight end, certainly.
Paul, you're the best. We appreciate you as always, giving us some time and breaking down this entire busy day for the Giants. And hope you enjoy the rest of the offseason, man, as this thing continues to roll on.
This was like a week packed into one day, and I don't mind it. Let's they have certain money to spend. Let's spend it. Let's spend it. Let's spend it, and let's pack it all into one busy day. Right? It's not a bad way to do it.
Executing Joe Schoen's vision. I think that's what we're seeing right now. Paul, you're the man.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.